The room fell silent the moment the hostess approached their table with that tight, polite smile that wasn't polite at all. Forks hovered mid-bite. Murmurs died away into an uncomfortable stillness. And there, in the heart of an upscale restaurant where every detail screamed exclusivity, a small girl clung tighter to her father's hand, her eyes wide with sudden uncertainty and hurt. That's when the single dad spoke. His voice was quiet, even, carrying just 4 words. "She's with me." Across the room, the billionaire heiress, Hilaire Voss, froze, her glass halfway to her lips, as if those simple words had struck something deep inside her. Before we continue with this tale of quiet courage and unexpected connection, let's remember that stories like this remind us how powerful a small act of standing up can be. James Harlan never intended to step into a place like Lumiere. It was one of those restaurants where the wine list was longer than most novels and the prices were never printed, because if you had to ask, you probably couldn't afford it. He'd stared at his phone outside for a solid 15 minutes, debating whether to turn back to their usual pizza spot. But it was Sophie's 8th birthday. She had woken up that morning in their small apartment, still in her pajamas, and asked with that earnest hope only kids have, "Dad, can we go somewhere really fancy? Just this once?" James was a forklift operator at a distribution center on the edge of the city. He pulled double shifts, drove a car that rattled when it hit potholes, and kept a strict budget in a notebook by the fridge. Fancy wasn't in their world. But birthdays were sacred, especially since Sophie's mom had left them 4 years earlier, cancer taking her far too soon and leaving James to master everything from ponytail tying to helping with fractions. So he'd said yes, booked the reservation with the last of his savings, and borrowed a blazer from a neighbor. Inside Lumiere, the air felt thick with importance. Polished silver, soft candlelight, waitstaff moving like silent shadows in tailored black. James smoothed his jacket, buttons still a little loose, and led Sophie to their table near the side, close enough to feel the room's energy but far enough to hope they blended in. Sophie wore her favorite dress, deep green with tiny flowers her grandmother had sewn on the hem. Her hair was in lopsided braids she'd insisted on doing herself. She beamed at everything, the sparkling glasses, the folded napkins, the menu she couldn't quite read. "Dad, look! They have chocolate soufflé." James smiled, heart full despite the knot in his stomach. Everything was fine until the dessert arrived early as a surprise. Sophie clapped in delight, her small hands knocking her water glass. It tipped, spilling across the pristine cloth. A few nearby diners glanced over. James reached quickly. "I'm sorry," he told the server. "We'll clean it up." But before he could, the hostess materialized, her expression schooled into professional regret. She leaned in. "Sir," she murmured, though loud enough for others to hear, "this section is reserved for our VIP patrons. There seems to have been a mix-up with your booking." James's pulse quickened. "I have a reservation. I can pull it up on my phone." The hostess's gaze flicked to Sophie's dress, then to James's scuffed shoes. Her smile thinned. "We can escort you to a more suitable area, or perhaps." Sophie shrank against him, her voice tiny. "It's okay, Dad. We can leave." That's when Hilaire Voss looked up from her solitary table. She had been sitting alone, surrounded by the invisible bubble of her status, servers attentive, other diners stealing glances. Hilaire Voss, heiress to a vast tech and real estate empire, youngest self-made billionaire in decades, always in the headlines yet always apart. Tonight was just another obligatory dinner, another place where people saw her fortune before they saw her. She heard Sophie's whisper. Saw the way the girl's shoulders hunched, trying to make herself smaller. Hilaire knew that posture intimately, from her own childhood, growing up in mansions but feeling invisible unless she performed perfectly. The hostess pressed on. "If you'll follow me." James drew a slow breath. "She's with me," he said. Calm. Certain. No edge, no plea, just fact. The room stilled completely. Hilaire's fork clattered softly against her plate. Something in those 4 words pierced through years of guarded distance. Not defensiveness. Not anger. Just a father protecting his daughter, no matter the room, no matter the eyes on them. The hostess faltered. Sir, Elara rose smoothly, every head turning. She crossed the floor in measured steps, heels clicking softly. They stay, she said, voice clear and unhurried. Both of them. The hostess paled. Ms. Voss, I didn't. I know, Elara said gently. That's exactly the issue. She approached James and Sophie's table, ignoring the ripple of whispers. May I join you for a moment, she asked. James nodded, still processing. Elara lowered herself to Sophie's level. Happy birthday, she said, smiling softly. I love your dress. The flowers are beautiful. Sophie blinked up at her. Thank you. Are you famous or something? Elara laughed, a real sound that surprised even her. Something like that. But not as important as birthdays. She straightened and met James's eyes. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did she. James swallowed. We just wanted one nice evening. You gave her that already, Elara replied. And more. She turned to the hostess. Bring them whatever they want. On my account. And please, make sure it's perfect. James started to object, but Elara raised a hand. Let me. Please. The rest of the meal transformed. Servers arrived with extra care, fresh napkins, a tiny cake with candles just for Sophie, sparkling water in fancy glasses. Other diners softened, some even smiling warmly. Sophie laughed freely again, fear forgotten. Elara returned to her table but kept glancing over, watching the quiet joy between father and daughter. She thought of her own endless dinners, empty small talk, calculated smiles, people wanting something from her. Here was something real, love that didn't need a price tag. As they prepared to leave, Elara stopped by once more. You're doing an incredible job, she told James. She's lucky to have you. James's eyes glistened. I'm the lucky one. Elara slipped a simple card onto the table. If you ever need anything, anything at all. James looked at it but didn't take it right away. Thank you. But tonight, this was more than enough. Elara's smile was genuine, unguarded. For the first time in a long time, her evening felt meaningful. Outside, Sophie looked up at her dad as they walked to the car. Dad? Yeah, kiddo. When I grow up, I want to be kind like you. And like her. James squeezed her hand. That's the best thing anyone could ever be. Back inside, Elara stood by the window, watching them disappear into the night. Her lavish meal suddenly felt richer, not because of the cost, but because of what she'd witnessed. Kindness doesn't check reservations or bank balances. It arrives in quiet voices, in steady hands, in 4 simple words spoken exactly when they're needed. She's with me. And sometimes, that's enough to shift everything. Carry that with you. Speak up when someone is being made small. Stand firm. Choose kindness. You never know whose world it might quietly change. 1.3s Fast 70 sources.